Hear me out with Jimmy B. Fearless. Thank y'all for joining me again. I really appreciate y'all. I want to talk a little bit about the NFL draft. I'm working on my mock draft for the upcoming NFL draft, and we expect that we're going to see a lot of quarterbacks get drafted this year, probably more than we've seen, in years. And I mean like the first and second, third round. So we have a lot of guys that we expect to go high, and that would be Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake May. Then we have Bo Nix, Mike Penix, or Malik Penix. And then we have some other folks too out there. So we have JJ McCarthy, which people think can go anywhere. He's like the wild card. People believe, scouts and certain reports are coming out, that he can go all the way up to Denver's pick, which I think they have about the 10th pick or the 12th pick, or he could go to the second round. So there's a lot of different quarterbacks. And I wanted to talk about how I think that the media in general, when we get like a lot of these mock drafts and when we get a lot of these people just talking about the draft and quarterbacks definitely getting picked, it really does not matter about how well the quarterback plays in college. Because if the system that they getting drafted to or the team that they getting drafted to is a dumpster fire, then it really won't matter. So make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. If you listen to this on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a rating and please go ahead and leave us some comments. Let us know what you think about the show. So the reason why I want to talk about this is because there's a lot of conversation going about the top three quarterbacks. So Caleb Williams, people are expecting that he's going to go to the Chicago Bears. One of my partners, we was talking and he was like, look, the Bears should just keep Justin Fields, draft Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors now. People thinking that he is probably going to be better than Marvin Harrison Jr. Like he should draft them, continue to develop, get more defensive, get more offensive weapons for him, and just continue to ride the hot hand. The reason why that's not a good idea, and as you know, Justin Fields got traded, is because Justin Fields had basically 3 years. This is his fourth year, then he's going to have his fifth year option. That fifth year option, he's going to expect to either get a big contract or what. And when you look at this track record that he's put up, he's thrown basically underneath 60% most of his career. He doesn't have a winning record. Justin Fields got drafted to a terrible team. A team that was coming off the Mr. Trubisky era. A team that just didn't have great coaches. Now they have a defensive coach, and I think the defense is actually good for the Chicago Bears. But that doesn't mean that this is going to be a great team, and he came in with zero weapons. I mean, Mooney used to be the number one option. That was the number one option. Didn't really have running backs, didn't have tight ends. I mean, the Bears were a terrible offense with no weapons for Justin Fields. So Justin Fields ended up breaking rushing records that like Michael Vick held and Lamar Jackson held because he didn't have no help. And that's my main point. Caleb Williams, if he gets drafted by the Bears, thankfully, right, he is going into a situation where they have Keenan Allen and they have DJ Moore, right? They have Cole Kmet. I don't really know about their running backs, but still, you can get some running backs in the draft. They have weapons for him. The offensive line is much improved. So Caleb Williams is jumping into a situation where, yes, he had a great college career, Heisman Trophy winner. Didn't have the best year last year, but he threw 30 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And 3 of those interceptions came in the Notre Dame game. So Caleb Williams, people are saying that, oh, maybe he shouldn't be the number one pick. Maybe it should be Jaden Daniels because Jaden Daniels won the Heisman. He had a historic season with LSU. LSU defense just wasn't good enough for them to be able to really like make it deep into the conference championships of the NCAA or college football. I'm sorry, man. I don't think that it matters really too much about what they're doing in college because the teams and the organizations that they're coming to is what's going to be important. We already know that if you're getting drafted as a quarterback, you have some type of talent, right? You can look at Brock Purdy. He's a fantastic example. He's Mr. Irrelevant last pick. We all know that. He came into a team that has so many offensive weapons. They have CMC, Deebo Samuels, right? Legendary tight end, great offensive line. You can be mediocre when it comes to your arm talent. You might not be able to throw 80 yards or 60 yards, right? But you have the ability to, if you have some type of arm talent and you have nice IQ when it comes to the quarterback position, you can be successful. Case in point, most of the time when these guys are getting drafted, they are in the top like 5. In the top 5, you get drafted to a sorry team. It's very rare that a team is drafting and they had a great team, but they just end up drafting that high. The only cases that you get is the 49ers, for example, when they got traded up to get Trey Lance because they wanted to upgrade over Jimmy G. That didn't work out, but still, if Trey Lance had not gotten injured, maybe he would have been so much better. You know, if they didn't start Brock Purdy, maybe Trey Lance would have been successful. But if you look at everyone else, from that draft, Trevor Lawrence, he went to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They had Urban Meyer. Urban Meyer was finger banging people in bars in Ohio. He was not an NFL coach. It took years for them to finally get Peterson, and now you're starting to see Trevor Lawrence start to ascend a little bit. But they have 0 weapons. They didn't have an offensive line for him. That team was god-awful. So when he got drafted to one of the worst teams in the NFL. Thankfully, they were able to correct the ship. They got a real coach, and they started actually adding offensive weapons for him. Zach Wilson got drafted. Terrible offensive line. Terrible offensive terrible offense. Straight up. You know, a defensive coach. No weapons for him. Very limited team. Very limited coaching staff when it comes to the offensive concepts. And he was not good enough to put the entire team on his back. There's only very few people that could do that. Very few without actual help. No running game. Now they started drafting them. You got Breece Hall, you know. You got Wilson, you know. They started signing guys, trying to drive, you know, trying to sign offensive tackles. They tried. But by that time, the confidence was destroyed for Zach Wilson. There you go. Mac Jones. Mac Jones had a great season when he was in Alabama. He also had hella weapons, but here nor there. He gets drafted to the Patriots. All right, cool. He's with the Patriots. Love that. He's with Bill Belichick. Best head coach ever. 0 weapons. They started signing guys. I remember they signed Jonnu Smith and all these dudes. Aguilar, Schuster. I don't know what happened to Juju. I don't know what happened to him. He's just been injured. You know, they signed him. Boom. They trying to add more weapons for him. Doesn't work out because they have a special teams coach and a defensive coach trying to call offense. They have a head coach that is so power hungry and so involved that per reports, and check out The Dynasty on Amazon. You can see what I'm talking about if you check out that documentary about the Patriots. That Bill Belichick was just like, hey, man, I'm going to go ahead and let the scouts do what they want to do. They'll give me their recommendations. And then like a month before the draft, I'm going to come in. I'm going to just draft whoever the hell I want anyway because I'm the one that's going to make the soup. So I need all the ingredients. And you're drafting Henry, you know, and these other wide receivers that don't pan out. Don't pan out at all. So Mac Jones, now he's traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars. New coach. This happens all the time. Already talked about Justin Fields. But then you'll see Lamar Jackson drafted, right? He was drafted 30th, I believe, or 32nd. People thought he was going to be a wide receiver, man. People thought that he should convert to running back. He was like, nah, I'm a quarterback. I don't care what nobody say, I'm a quarterback. I don't care what nobody say, I'm a quarterback. And the team that he got drafted to, they did not have all the offensive weapons. which probably helped him get his first MVP. They didn't have all the offensive weapons, but they had a strong organization that no matter what will continue to be like, hey, Greg Roman ain't working. We're going to get another offensive coordinator. We're going to put you in the best position to succeed. And they had one of the best tight ends in the league anyway. And they always was focused on the run. So that allows for a young quarterback to go ahead and develop the passing game, which Lamar Jackson has. Now he's 2-time MVP, one of the best teams in the league, because they have a great organization. So my point is that the catalyst for the NFL draft, look, if you're getting drafted as a quarterback, you're good. You have some talent. But 99% of the quarterbacks that we think are bust has nothing to do with the player. They blame the player. It's about the organization, straight up. It's about the team that they get drafted to. Because if the team does not have a history of leaning towards offense for a quarterback that's one of those top guys, or they don't have an identity on offense, or they don't have an offensive coach, or they don't have an offensive philosophy, or a history of being a good organization, you're going to see them not succeed. Kyler Murray, another example, #1 overall pick. Kyler Murray has struggled in his career. Not really about putting up stats. He's actually been really, really, really good. But every time they survey players in the NFL about Arizona Cardinals, they're ranked as one of the worst organizations. You got to pay for your food and stuff to get takeout boxes. The facility is trash. The owner is a nutball flying from Atlanta to Arizona on his own plane just so he can make sure he makes it. Like weird millionaire crazy people stuff. Their GM constantly is having problems, having DUIs and all types of stuff. Craziness within the organization. Coaches that are nuts. It just doesn't work out because they don't have the infrastructure of being like, hey, this is our identity. This is what we're going to do. This is our focus. We have a team that is structured this way. This is what we want to do. This is our philosophies. And we continue to show that for years to come. That's the reason why I believe that the Steelers are going to work out with Russell Wilson, because they have a certified head coach in Mike Tomlin. They have the same identity. They're going to run the ball, but they also are going to draft extremely talented weapons on the outside or at wide receiver. So they have that passing and running combination. Also, we're going to put out every year one of the best defenses that you've ever seen. And also, we're going to win, because no matter what, even if we don't make it to the playoffs, we're going to win. The Steelers has a philosophy. As a Cleveland Browns fan myself, this is something that we're trying to build, and we are on the way. We have a philosophy. We're going to be an offensive team that's going to focus on quarterback and run. It seems like, okay, well, that's simple. That's every team wants to do. No, we have our shit identified. We're going to have one of the best, most aggressive defenses in the NFL. Myles Garrett, some of the best corners in the NFL. And our goal is to go ahead and really continue to enhance the quarterback position with Watson, and the wide receiver position, you can tell by Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy, to be able to go ahead and run an offense which focuses on less mistakes, definitely scoring 28 points or more. Usually around 28 points. Because our defense for the Browns are only going to give up 14 to 21 points per game. So we can score 28, we're good. Still a focus on the run, but more of a heavy play action run team that goes ahead and feeds off of feeding the tight end and then mixing about 4 or 5 big throws per game. The Chiefs, a team that moved up to go ahead and get their quarterback of the future. Even though they had Alex Smith, even though they was in the playoffs for years straight. With Alex Smith, their philosophy was we have to get better at the best position. But they had a team that was there. They had Travis Kelce. They had Hill. They had a running game. They had a philosophy. They had an offensive coach. They knew exactly what they was going to do. So there's countless examples. There's countless examples of 99, or I would say 90% of the time, the reason why these quarterbacks are bust is because of the organization that they go to. It's not because they lack the talent. Because they had enough talent to get on the scouts' radar, to go ahead and do good enough within college to be able to get noticed. The popularity is there. That's also a factor. Boom. So when it comes to Caleb Williams versus Jaden Daniels versus Drake May, really it's not about like those players. They all have elite traits. Caleb Williams, people think he's going to be Patrick Mahomes because he can throw with different arm angles. He has a little bit of mobility. He's also an extremely precision passer on the run. And he makes good decisions. You can tell that by his turnover ratio. He even hasn't had all the weapons at USC that you would imagine that, a quarterback should have, certainly when it's going to be drafted as number 1. But my thing is that Caleb Williams is going to the Bears. And the Bears, that's why they're doing what they're doing, drafting or trading for all these players, signing all these players, getting whatever they can do, because they know that this one can't fail and they have to get weapons around him. Because if he gets drafted number 1 and he tries to do all that off-script shit with no weapons or a coach that can tell him like, hey, you need to calm down. We're going to focus on this offense. We're going to go ahead and run this offense. And if you have an opportunity to go to your second or third option and make a crazy play, that's when you're going to do it. But we're going to run within this scheme to calm him down. If they don't have that, they are screwed. Caleb Williams is going to fail. Jaden Daniels, if he gets drafted number 2, right, to the Redskins, another prime example. Thank God they got weapons. They got McLaurin, they got Dotson, they got running backs, tight ends. They got a good offensive line. They're continuing to build. But Jaden Daniels could definitely fail because they don't have an identity yet. Why is that? Because, I'm sorry, I think I said the Redskins. My apologies. I meant to say the Commanders. The Commanders, they're a dumpster fire. They have been a dumpster fire for years. They had to get a new owner. Previous owners forced out basically by the NFL. They still don't have that identity. So Jaden is going into a situation where they don't have an identity as a franchise. They don't really have, they do have a good coach, thank God, but he's a defensive coach. So what you think he's going to be focusing on? The defense got ravaged by trading a whole bunch of players. So they continue to have to build up. So the defense is not going to be extremely dominant. And they have a new offensive philosophy, but they don't have anything historically there that they can put their hat on. And Commanders never have had that. They've never been like, oh, we're a running team or we're a throwing team or, we're a exotic type of offense. They don't have that. They never have. So I'm guessing that Jaden Daniels probably going to get drafted by the Commanders, and it's a high opportunity that he's going to fail. New owner, everything that's going on, crazy name changes, dumpster fire organization. Thankfully, they got weapons. Thankfully, they have weapons for him. The New England Patriots, they're probably going to draft Drake May at number 3. No offensive weapons for this guy. 0. Really none. They got Aguilar. Thank God they got rid of Parker. Couldn't separate. They don't have any top talent on offense. Everything is just okay at best. So he's going to go there and he's going to go through the exact same thing that Mac Jones went through. The same thing. No weapons, no offensive identity yet. We have no idea what the Patriots are going to look like next year. And they have a defensive head coach. It's the same thing. You know who's going to be lucky? You know who's going to be like, oh my God, this quarterback is so good. We didn't know. He caught everybody by storm. Whoever gets drafted to the Denver Broncos. Let's say that's J.J. McCarthy. I put money on it that he's going to be like, oh, wow, he's going to be rookie of the year. He's so good. Now, sometimes the reason why I say that is because Sean Payton. The reason why I say that is because they have a number 1 wide receiver. The reason why I say that is because they have an identity through Sean Payton. They want to continue to get better. That's the reason why if J.J. McCarthy gets drafted there, it was J.J. McCarron, one of them. If he gets drafted there, boom. He's going to be probably the best rookie quarterback. Sometimes, though, you can have anomalies in my point and in my case. You can have a CJ Stroud. New head coach. No identity. They was one and done with like 2 head coaches straight. 3. There's 3 head coaches. They had Lovie Smith. They had the other dude. Yeah, it was like 3 head coaches straight. One and dones. No offensive philosophy. No really good players that we thought. They had a number 1 wide receiver sitting there the whole time. But he just needed the right quarterback. They continued to build up on their running game. So they had an okay running game. They did have Tunsil, so they had it all right left side. That blind side was protected with Tunsil. He's the best, second or third best left tackle, right? But they didn't have any weapons, but they changed it. They got Schultz, which I think is an underrated tight end. Got him from the Cowboys, signed him and re-signed him this year. Great idea. Great things. And they drafted they signed young offensive coordinators to be able to help CJ Stroud. And CJ Stroud just ended up being a godsend. He ended up being a surprise because everybody was like, oh, Bryce Young should go number 1. Another example. If CJ Stroud had went number 1 to the Panthers, he would not have looked as good. They don't have weapons. He would have been throwing just like Bryce Young to Adam Thielen. I do not believe that if CJ Stroud was drafted by the Panthers, that he would have been as good or as successful. Definitely wouldn't have had that interception streak because they had no weapons. No weapons. Not happening. Bryce Young would have got drafted, though, by the Texans. I do see that he would have been okay. He probably would have looked more like CJ Stroud than what he looked like. So my point is very simple. Honestly, what you do in college is good. It's a nice indication. It helps the scouts, but it doesn't really truly have any bearing on the NFL. Not only is the concepts different, not only is it a whole different ball game, you're dealing with the top talent on planet Earth in terms of football, but the organization matters. How many resources they're going to put into you matters. Are you having a lame duck coach like the Chicago Bears? If Chicago, and I expect this, let's say Chicago is 2-6 midway through, they're going to fire their coach. Now Caleb is coming in, boom, new head coach. So he'll be on his second head coach. He's going to probably do an interim, and then they're going to sign another head coach next year, probably Lincoln Riley, whoever the hell. And look at that. This happened to Baker Mayfield. He had 3 head coaches in 3 years. Now look at him. He has some type of stability, and he looks way better. Just got a $100 million contract. If the Bears should not be allowed to draft Caleb Williams. They shouldn't, man. It's insane, but that's the draft, and that's the way it rock. Worst team, hey, get the opportunity again. You keep getting shots at it. But it's a high possibility Caleb Williams is going to fail because of that organization that he's getting drafted to. They don't have a history of anything offense. They still back in the 80s. They still believe that everything should be focused on defense. And their defense is going to be good. But Caleb's going to be the best quarterback prospect that they've ever had. Thank God that they're trying to get as many weapons as possible. They should continue to draft weapons. Fuck the defense. Help him out. Help him get people that can help him. So that's my point, man. The NFL draft, like with these quarterbacks that get drafted, man, it don't really matter what they do in college, bro. As long as you show some type of talent, as long as you show some type of consistency, oh, he can make back shorter throws. Oh, he can read defense well. Oh, he has mobility. Oh, he can run an offense, a pro-style offense. As long as he has one of those intangibles, he has a big arm, you can teach everything else if they have talent around them. But if they don't have no talent, they don't have any philosophy, if the organization is not solid, they're going to probably fail. They're going to probably fail, and they're going to probably fall off a fucking cliff. Jalen Hurts, look at him. Drafted 2nd round. People thought he was going to be a dirtbag. People thought he wasn't even going to play. They thought he was just like, oh, they're just having him be the second option. Now look at him. Why you think Kenny Pickett wanted to go there? He was so glad to go to the Eagles because They have a system, they have a philosophy, they are dedicated to winning, and they do not care. If you're not playing, your ass is grass. So in the comments, leave a review. You know, if you listen to this on our podcast, let me know what you guys think. Do you think I'm bugging? Do you think I'm lying? Do you think I'm stupid? Let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Thank you for joining us here. Hear me out with Jimmy B. Fearless, YFM Sports.